Okay, so welcome Inebri-Art. It's kind of noisy here because I'm going to say we're at SuperMegaFest. We're not, but we were here all weekend recording with several people, several creators. It's not that we were recording another podcast, and this is just what we got. So we actually got to talk to a lot of really cool people at SuperMegaFest, including some people who were in Star Wars and Fifth Element, comic creators, podcasts. Everyone got super quiet. It's freaking me out. So that's freaking me out. All right, so we got to record with a lot of cool people this weekend. Some old people, some new people. Check out the podcast, and if you haven't been to SuperMegaFest, you're missing out. It's a great weekend. And it's held in Marlborough twice a year in the spring and the fall. Lots of cool people, lots of celebrities. Check it out. All right, Inebri-Art, we are here with Bill Anderson, comic book illustrator.
Inker mostly, but now kind of branching out into writing as well.
So what have you worked on in the past that our listeners may have read or know?
I've worked on Spider-Man, Silver Surfer, Superman, Batman, just about.
And I believe Robotech?
I did work on
was
a lot
a huge
of
Robotech
for Comico long ago, yes. Elementals for Comico as well. Johnny Quest.
Yeah.
Dreadstar, the Jim Starlin character at first. I've done a little bit of everything almost everywhere.
Yeah, and how did you get started in the comic book world?
A few different ways. You know, for me it wasn't really just like a one big break-in moment.
Yeah.
I think the first thing I ever did for Marvel was because I was showing my portfolio to Walt Simonson at a convention. And he looked through it and he said, well, you know, not really anything I can tell you. Go get some work.
Right.
And luckily for me, his wife, Louise, was an editor at Marvel at the time and was sitting right next to him. So
nice.
She handed me her card and got a few assignments out of that. Some of the stuff, like a lot of the Comico work that I did, that grew out of the fact that one of the partners in Comico contributed to a lot of the same fanzines that I did when we were both teenagers.
Right.
So when he then became a partner in the company, he brought me on to ink his title for the company. And then when the founding partners stopped their titles and then moved into doing other stuff like Robotech and whatever, you know, I kept getting hired to do stuff on those titles.
So at what point did you kind of get interested in comic books? Like, were you always like, I want to be a comic book artist? And
pretty much, yeah. I mean, I can't remember a time, basically, that I wasn't drawing and reading comics.
Yeah.
And it goes back beyond the bounds of my memory. They always were a part of my life, and I always knew that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah. And so what is this new project that you're working on?
Well, it's historical fantasy called The Trust. Silent screen. It's kind of hard to... I now realize it's easier to understand what I'm saying if you see it in print. But the name of the main group in the series is The Trust.
Okay.
And the title of this first story arc is Silent Scream. And
so kind of like how Sin City has individual stories.
Right.
You know, like
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's, like I said, historical fantasy, takes place in the 1920s. The characters in it are all real people from back then. Thomas Edison, Amelia Earhart.
Oh, wow.
A lot of solid movie actors like Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin. There's a group of villains. So the Trust is the group of good guys.
Good guys. Yeah.
And then the villains are called the Cabal, and they are comprised mostly of actors from 1920s German horror cinema. Okay. Like Max Schreck. He's the leader of the Cabal. He was Count Orloff in Nosferatu.
Right, yeah.
Thomas Edison has invented this device called the Optimus that can bring souls back from limbo and plant them in machinery to bring it to life. Yeah. And Max Schreck hears about this and he wants to get his hands on it because he wants to create a robot army.
Oh, that sounds cool.
Now,
did you do the whole thing? Did you write it? And
I'm co-writing it.
Yeah.
And I'm inking it and lettering it and book designing it and running the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Yada, yada. We have a penciler named Inebri-Art.
Yeah.
From Argentina. We're connected with on Facebook. And our colorist is Lori Smith, who she's been around coloring for a long time. She colors a lot of George Freeman's work, the Captain Canuck, the new stuff that's coming out from Chapter House. She does a lot of coloring for paper cuts too. I think they're like a Scholastic imprint, maybe, or something. It's a younger reader imprint. And my co-creator on the project is a guy named Dennis Webster, and this is his first comics work. He's, previous to this, has written a lot of non-fiction, regional supernatural tales, things like Wicked Adirondacks, Wicked Mohawk Valley. Gathering together the supernatural lore of
different areas.
And also some fiction as well, but this is his first foray into comics.
So now, when you started back like in the Comico days and whatnot, it's far different now. Like now you're talking about Kickstarters and connecting with people on Facebook. Do you feel that's better for the creativity of things where you can connect so easily and get things funded yourself? Or
yes, it definitely is, in the sense that the whole landscape has changed, you know, and especially for inkers these days, there's much less opportunities because a lot of people are doing full artwork instead of being separated into penciler and inker. And so initially, I started developing some projects as a writer or co-writer to give myself an inking gig.
Oh, right,
But also I found that I really love doing it as well, and so now Dennis and I are also developing other properties that we'll just be writing and I won't be involved in the artwork because Silent Scream really takes up most of my art time, you know, because it's so research heavy and reference heavy with being real people and trying to get the look of the time period down. Even the writing part of it, it's a lot of research involved too, which is, it's actually fun though, because you do find out, we try to spin things out of real world connections or events as much as we can, and then just fictionalize and think what would be the next logical thing that would happen out of that. So for instance, the device of Edison's that I mentioned to you that can bring souls back from limbo, that grew out of the fact that in interviews he claimed he actually was working on a device that could communicate with the dead.
Oh, okay.
So our premise was, well, he succeeded.
Right, he took a step further.
He can communicate with them, but he can bring them back too.
So you said it's a lot more intensive towards research. Now, when you're kind of picking the characters for your book, did you try to go with just the people that were automatically recognizable, like Buster Keaton and whatnot? Or did you try to like mix in some lesser known?
Yeah, there absolutely is some lesser known folks in there. I would say, like in the Trust, Edison, Amelia Earhart, Buster Keaton, and Charlie Chaplin are the ones that people might or will recognize. But there are other members like Will Montana. He was one of the first guys that transitioned from wrestling into movies.
Oh, okay.
So he always was playing like a tough thug or whatever. And there's an early like prehistoric movie. I'm trying to think if it's 10,000 BC or something like that. It's a silent film still. He was the main guy in that, but they actually didn't use his name in the credits. They just put question mark, like you were supposed to think it was a real caveman. And so he's one of the members of the Trust, and also a cowboy movie star named William S. Hart, who back then was huge. He was as big as Roy Rogers or Tom Mix or somebody like that. Not so well known now.
Right, over the course of time, people...
But back then, it was And Musadora is, well, for the people listening, I was pointing at an image of her.
My listeners already hear my air quotes all the time, and yeah. So.
She was a French actress who went by the stage name Musadora.
Okay.
And she actually, the outfit that we have her in most of the time during the story is this skin-tight black leather outfit with bat wings.
Bat wings, yeah.
And she really did wear an outfit like that in her most famous movie role.
Really?
She was in a serial called Les Vampires.
Okay.
And it was not actually about vampires. It was about a group of thieves that called themselves the Vampires.
Oh, all right.
And she played a cat burglar who climbed up the outside of buildings dressed in that outfit.
Yeah.
So in our story, Edison and Amelia Earhart have kind of souped up the outfit for her so she can actually fly.
Oh, nice.
And most of the actors, what they bring to the group is kind of like an extension and an exaggeration of what you've seen them do on screen.
Right.
Chaplin and Keaton were both very acrobatic and did all their own stunts, so, naturally you would build out from that.
Right, enhance it to kind of like a superhero level.
Right.
Right, yeah.
I mean, we don't go full bore superhero, but it's definitely an adventure story.
Oh, nice. So one thing that we're always asking people on our podcast is like what kind of advice they would give to younger creative people wanting to get into business. So do you have like some basic story idea advice, or how? I don't even want to say like how can you get into inking, because like you're saying it seems like it's a harder and harder.
I don't. I try not to stress that. I would say don't specialize in inking.
Yeah.
Because it is a shallower pool of available opportunities these days. When I started, it was every book had a penciler and an inker, and it was the very rare
person
idol,
that did both,
like
right?
say Simonson on Thor, doing everything. That was not the norm.
Right.
So I would say don't skimp on your penciling work.
Yeah.
Be able to do full artwork, because that really seems to be more the way that things are moving.
Yeah. And do you think it's more the way to go to kind of take your own property and try to make something of it, or the easier route would be to try and work on it?
You are looking to work soon.
Yeah.
I would say probably it's better to try to develop your own thing, just because there's a huge pool of freelancers out there now. I mean, it seems bigger than ever.
Right.
And a lot of them, I think, are moving out into their own thing because Marvel, DC, whoever, have more people than they could ever use.
Right. So it seems like you'd be better off creating work than trying to...
Yeah. And honestly, even if your ultimate goal is to work for them, you probably are better off starting out creating something of your own that you can use as a portfolio piece.
Because then you can bring a finished book and be like, this is what I did.
And that is the route that writers especially, but I see artists doing this too. If you can get notoriety for your own project, even if you don't see yourself doing that for 20 years, you have a short-term project that garners you attention, you can then translate that into...
Because at that point, DC Marvel would already see you as a commodity. You're going to bring people with
that's happened with a lot, like Brian Michael Bendis. He started out with his own, where he even actually was drawing some of them. And he got a lot of recognition that way, and then moved into writing.
The guys that jump to mind for me is, of course, I'm going to blank on their names entirely. The Atomic Robo guys, Scott Wegner, and I can't remember the writer, but they started their own comic. It gained a lot of notoriety, and now both of them have done work for Marvel. It's
definitely a path, and I would say if you have a creative itch that you want to satisfy now, that's the way to do it. Because you could, potentially be banging your head against the wall at Marvel DC for a while, and if all you're doing is just coming up with new portfolio pieces, then...
And nowadays with something like Kickstarter, where you don't necessarily have to fund it yourself,
the thing you're going to need, you got to do a lot of legwork with Kickstarter.
Yeah.
It's actually a pretty full-time job.
Yeah.
I've discovered from doing ours, and I had the benefit of having something of a notoriety to my name, so I got a lot of people in that way. But even then, it was a lot of work. You got to manage it every day and respond to stuff.
Yeah.
And you got to try to think of different places to promote it.
Right.
Because our project didn't get any, other than providing the platform, of course, which is great. Kickstarter didn't give us a project we love or prominent feature on their comics projects page or anything like that.
Right.
But we still managed to get over 1,000 above our goal.
Oh, nice. That's great.
Which was great because it let us do the stretch goal, which was the Joe Sinnott, one of our characters.
Awesome. So if our listeners wanted to check out your project, where could they go to find it?
Well, the Kickstarter page is still up. It stays up even after the campaign is over. And on that page, there's a button that says follow along.
Yeah.
And if you click that, you'll get all the notifications that I send out. So when we do the Kickstarter for number 2, you would get a notification about that. We have a Facebook page for the project. It's called Friends of the Trust.
Okay.
So if you go on Facebook and search, you can find that. We have a website, homunculuscomics.com.
Okay.
That's HOMUNCULUS. And you can get in touch with me through that, or if you can't remember searching on Kickstarter, there's a link to the Kickstarter page
from there.
Homunculuscomics.com. So for now, really through the Kickstarter or through contacting me through the website or at shows is the only way it's available. It's not in stores yet.
Yeah.
I want to get some issues under our belt, and if there's a publisher that wants to do a direct market edition of it, then I'd be open to that. But I don't
kind of keeping it in-house now.
Yeah. I mean, I like the direct connection that I'm getting with readers at shows. It's good because it's removed all of these middlemen, and I hear real responses from people, what they thought about it. And you can definitely tell when somebody's really about it, because I've had shows where, like I had a show where a guy came on Saturday, bought a copy, and first thing Sunday morning he was back at my table with like pages of notes and stuff that, you should check out this movie or this website or whatever.
Oh, that's cool. So
you could tell it was really resonating with him. And I get a lot of people that like it when they see, even before I started, we had the book, I'd been going out, beating the bushes, promoting it as an upcoming thing with work in progress. And people were connecting with it because it wasn't like my version of Superman or whatever, another superhero thing. So they liked the new ground that it was covering.
That's awesome.
Got a lot of positive response from that. So for now, I know it's kind of a pain. They're going to have to sort of research into how to get to it,
but sometimes those are the best things. When you
have
to kind of look a little.
I'm open to on Facebook. In addition to the page, there, I'm also on there as my own self. So if you would rather connect directly with me and then private message me about buying a copy, I'm happy to do that too.
Excellent.
And I accept,
or they can come out and meet you at an event.
I accept all friend requests that aren't those porn bots.
Oh, those fake ones. Yeah, I love those. Yeah.
I always go and I look at people's pages to make sure that they're a real person.
Yep. I always look at their friends and been like, oh, you've been on for like a day and have 7 friends, and I don't know any of them.
You know those are fake away. But no, I'm happy to friend, and I'm way away from my limit. So room for plenty of people to come and friend me if that's the route they want to go, or they could go to the Homunculus Comics website and there's a contacts page there, and that's just an email that'll get you right to me as well. So I'm available to be connected with. So unfortunately, I can't say go to your local store to get it because it's not there yet. I'm more than happy to have stores carry it. Any stores that might be listening to this,
they can reach the same way.
Right. And I'll sell you the small pack at 50% off, like you get from Diamond.
Yeah.
I don't want to shut stores out of that loop, definitely.
Yeah.
I used to work at a comic store, so
Oh, no
I
kidding.
love the whole atmosphere and everything. So, any stores, contact me.
Nice. Awesome. Well, thanks for taking time to talk to us, and it was an
Very
absolute
welcome.
pleasure.
Thanks for the interview.
Excellent. Thanks, man. All right, listeners, we're here with Mike. We're at SuperMegaFest, and what caught my attention about his table was he has wooden robots that look like they're basically from a tabletop battle-style game. So can you tell me a little bit about these robots?
Yeah, sure. They're called Clandroids. They're wooden battle bots. I make them at home down in my wood shop. As you referred to, I started to get into tabletop wargaming, such as Warhammer 40K and War Machine and some of the Star Wars tabletop games. And I took an interest in making my own little toys to supplement some of the units that are included in the game, because those games can be very expensive. So, as I said, I started to make my own little units, my own little robots and whatnot, and to put them on the table. And as is always the case, one thing led to another, and I started to make my own different factions, different colors. I gave them, the team logos and flags, and I wrote up a little backstory on it, and the whole thing just blew up into this little world, this little creation, and it's still in its early processes of evolution, but we're getting there.
Yeah, and so we talked briefly yesterday, and you were talking about maybe like working on some rules to go along to turn it into a tabletop game.
Right.
So,
right.
like, you're a gamer. Like, what is like the biggest struggle about that? Because I think everyone who plays tabletop games is like, oh, I could totally make a game.
Right, and that's a deception. It's a challenge. As soon as you go to try to make a game, which I would encourage you to do, it's not as easy as you think it is.
Mm-hmm.
I've already tried a couple times, and the biggest hurdle, of course, is that it's too complicated. It's too much, especially for one person to do.
Yeah.
These gaming companies will have 100 people or so creating and testing these games. I don't have that. It's just me, or just me and maybe a buddy. So it's a challenge. It's ongoing, but I'm still working on it. I still hope to turn this into a game someday.
Yeah, and even that testing part is like, you can have your rules, but if you're not going to play it 100 times to figure out where the flaws are, where it's broken, then it's not really a feasible game.
Right, it's got to be calibrated, and you have to play it many, many times from many different angles, different sides, to find out what's wrong with it. Because, of course, you don't want it to be favored to one side or another. It's got to be completely balanced, and no matter what side or faction you play, in this particular case, you have to be able to win the game through intelligent use of the components and elements at hand. So
Right.
it's a process, but I'm still looking forward to it, still working on it.
Nice. And so you're also a writer, and does this book tie into the game, or is
No, this is completely separate.
Yeah.
This here is Ratara the Legend of Damien. This is a superhero dynamic duo action adventure. This actually deals with heavy subjects. This deals with a lot of what we see going on in the world today.
Yep.
As far as religious warfare, gang violence, clan warlordism, that sort of thing, religious supremacy, all wrapped up in this dynamic duo, Batman and Robin-y, kick the bad guy's butt action adventure. So it does get a little heavy at times, it gets philosophical, a little theosophical, that sort of thing, but plenty of action adventure.
Nice. So if our listeners wanted to check out your stuff, is there a website for both or either? Or?
I have websites for both.
Okay.
Actually, Facebook pages. So for the book series, it's called Ratara: The Legend of Damien. So the Facebook page there is ratara.bookseries. And for the Clandroids BattleBots, if you're interested in that, the Facebook page is clandroids.woodenbattlebots.
Oh, nice. So thanks for talking to us, and are you doing more cons in the area?
Absolutely. I will be in Northeast, or it's actually renamed now. It's called Boston South Coast Comic-Con
And that's coming up in December.
December 9th and 10th. Yeah.
Nice. So people can check you out. I believe that's in Hanover.
Hanover, Mass.
Yep. So, again, thanks for talking to us, and have a great day.
Many thanks for having me.
All right, thanks, man. All right, so listeners, I am here with Dexter Herron. Is that the correct pronunciation? Who is an author, and we're here at SuperMegaFest. So tell us a little bit about the books you've written.
Hi, my first book, my latest and greatest, Shards Thugs, is an action-adventure story from the side of the goblins. So it's lots of hacking and slashing and somebody getting kicked in the nads every 5 minutes. It's guaranteed to make you laugh or your money back.
So why did you choose to write it from the goblin side?
I'll be honest with you, it was sort of a writing exercise,
Yeah.
and I just started writing randomly, and all of a sudden I realized, oh no wait, these are goblins, oh no wait, this is funny, oh no wait, it's out of control,
Yeah.
and there you go.
So are they kind of reluctant heroes, or are they heroes in their own mind where they're fighting the heroes and what they're doing is heroic and
It
not necessarily...
depends on which goblin you talk to.
Yeah.
They all have their own different motives. Our hero Shard, all he wants to do is kill elves.
Okay.
And any way that he can manage it, and he figures if I can get enough guys together, we can kill enough elves, which is near impossible because the elves, they're archers and they stand behind the dwarves, and you can't get through the dwarves. So he now has to figure these things out, and it's tough as a goblin because goblins are stupid.
Yeah. So what got you into kind of the sword and sorcery? Were you like a Tolkien fan? Were you a D&D person?
I was a Tolkien fan, D&D, all the way back as far as I remember. So, with the Ralph Bakshi animation,
Oh,
and
yes.
of course,
Oh,
then
yeah,
going
yeah.
back and reading all the fantasy out there, and of course Conan, and you name it.
Yep.
I was all over that. So I've always been sort of aiming in that direction. I've been writing since I was 9 years old.
Yeah. So what, like 10 years?
Well, yes, for 10 years this day.
Okay.
But literally, I just started. I had a portable typewriter, so started working on it. And
Yeah.
then, my uncle, who was in the Navy, they were decommissioning a submarine, so he brought me this massive U.S. Navy surplus typewriter. So
Oh, wow.
this enormous typewriter sitting on my desk.
That's cool.
And my parents.
Do you still have that?
No.
No?
Unfortunately, we
yeah.
just couldn't keep lugging that thing around. But it was one of those. My parents are like, "What do we do?" And so for my birthday, they got me a ream of paper.
Yeah.
This is all that I wanted to do. And
Yeah.
so now I'm getting my chance. So hopefully, follow my ambition.
Nice. And so nowadays, I've talked about this with many people. To be able to create your own thing is so much easier with, short-run printing companies and Kickstarter and all sorts of things like that. Did you do a Kickstarter for this, or did you fund it yourself?
It's created space through Amazon.
Yep.
And part of it is, yes, anybody can put something out, but in my mind, it has to be worth your time to read.
Right.
And I respect people's time very much. So I work very hard to make sure it is a professional production, as good of a story as it could possibly be, because I want my readers to just be as excited about my characters as I am.
Yeah. I suppose that is a blessing and a curse, that anybody can put something out, but in the same aspect, anybody can put something out.
Correct.
Yeah.
So really, it's the integrity of the author.
Yeah.
Because they want to put something out and they want it to be really, really good. And if you can't read it, then nobody else will. So you can't see yourself putting out stuff.
And so then your other one is called Knights of Chaos.
Correct.
And what is that about?
So if you imagine a pantheon of gods, every god has a knight representing them on Earth. So if your god is for truth and justice, your knight is for truth and justice. If your god is a sociopath, then your knight is a homicidal maniac.
Okay.
And it starts off as a murder. All the other knights are sort of investigating this, trying to figure it out, but it turns out there's gods involved, and some of the gods don't even know why they're involved because other gods are involved. So it's a sort of a wide, convoluted plot, lots of storylines going on, very Game of Thrones at certain times, except I'm a bit Douglas Adams, Terry Pratchett, Tolkien in a dark alley for a mugging and nobody knows who's getting robbed sort of thing.
Okay.
So
I like Douglas Adams, but that's a weird addition to, I would never think of Douglas Adams and Tolkien in the same.
And it is, and oddly enough, it sort of works.
Yeah.
But I have a tendency, I go off on some of the odd things, but. So especially when you're working with sort of sometimes a dark subject and end of the world, apocalyptic sort of things, you need your humor. So,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I can't make my day without having a good laugh. So.
Nice. So if you were the paladin of a god, what would that god be?
He would be for truth and justice. I am that law and order guy. I'm the lawful good guy.
Yeah.
And no matter how any other character I play, no matter what other personality I come up with, they always wind up doing the right thing. So I am a Boy Scout. I'm an Eagle Scout. I'm currently a Scout leader.
Oh, nice.
I've got my own venture crew.
That's awesome.
So I am, I'm a lawful good guy. There's
nice.
really not a lot to it.
Is there a god of sarcasm in the Pantheon?
There isn't a god of sarcasm. There is a god of video games. There's a god of pinball machines. There's a god of left turns, but there's no god of right turns.
Okay.
So, and that is a point of contention.
Yeah.
So the gods themselves, they vie for one thing or another. And if one guy's knight is good, that god's knight is good. You try to steal that god's knight.
Oh, so you try to sway them to.
And sometimes the knights are looking at, well, that god's very powerful. Maybe it's time for me to move up.
Nice.
But of course, when knights fail, then sometimes their gods will switch on us. So it's like, you screwed up, dude. You're done. So,
peace out.
You know, and sometimes they get reassigned. Especially if they screw up.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like you botched that one, you got to go and pay penance to this god. So you're serving that guy now.
Oh, that's interesting. So being a D&D fan, I'm a huge fan of this particular show.
Yeah.
Are you a fan of Critical Role?
Which one?
Critical Role?
No, I'm unfamiliar with Critical Role. I'm
okay.
a big fan of D&D.
I strongly recommend it, but to be caught up is like a heroic undertaking.
Okay.
It is 6 voice actors and a GM that is also a voice actor. They play D&D once a week live on a Twitch stream. So each episode's on the short side 3 hours, on the long side 5.
That is.
So it's an undertaking to get caught up because they just finished the campaign. It's amazing D&D. It's amazing theater.
Yeah.
Because they're all professional actors, improving, and it's funny and it's touching, and it's all the things I think everyone loves about D&D.
That sounds exactly right up my alley. Actually, I just finished 11th Hour production, an audio drama, Monsters Game.
Okay.
Where I play the part of Matthias.
Oh, really?
Which is a demon that talks to this guy through his headphones.
Oh.
And it tells him he needs to go out and kill people.
Where can people find that?
Actually, it will be coming out October 30th.
Yeah.
And it will be under the 11th Hour production, which is actually a worldwide production, and everybody has to submit by October 30th.
Oh, that's cool.
So that will be available. The UK's, the guys in England just wrapped up, and so the guys in New England just wrapped up, and we've got guys across the country. We expect their submissions coming in, and it will be available on October 30th.
Oh, that's awesome. So
11th Hour video production, and it's all horror.
Yeah. Oh, October 30th, of course, yeah. So hopefully our listeners will check that out. Hopefully they'll check out your book. Is there a website for your book?
Amazon.
Just Amazon? They can
make things easy.
Look up Shards, Thugs, and Knights of Chaos.
Absolutely.
And
also, we're available on Kindle in both formats.
Oh, perfect.
And if you have Kindle Prime, Shards Thugs is free.
Wow, really?
Go for it.
Nice.
Absolutely.
So hopefully our listeners will check that out. Thanks for talking to us, and best of luck with your book, man.
Pleasure.
Thank you. All right, so listeners, we are here with Hannibal King, who I've known for it seems like forever, and I always see you build as a magic card artist.
This is true.
But you've done many things beyond that.
I have done very many things.
So what are some of your credentials where people might know your work from?
I've done a number of different things for Marvel and DC. I worked at Kamiko Comics back in the 80s.
On Grendel, right?
On Grendel.
Yep.
Did layouts and actually penciled about 3 issues of Grendel.
Nice.
On my own.
So, did you break into comics first, or on the magic cards, or?
Oh, it was definitely comics
first.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so, how did you get involved with the magic?
Magic. I was in a studio with this guy named Rick Berry, who is an incredible book cover artist.
Okay.
And he was so hot that he had no time when they called him for magic cards that he gave it to the kid, who was me
was you
at that time. And and I did my first work on Ice Age.
Yeah.
And that's what, the second deck out, or maybe the third deck.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's so long ago I can't remember. Anyway, so the next thing I knew, I was on the rotation.
Yeah.
Like every 6 months for new decks, up until about 2007 or 8.
Yeah.
And it looks like I'll be doing some more work.
Oh, nice.
It's,
So the one thing that I've heard from artists about kind of maintaining work and continuing to get more work is hitting deadlines. Would you say that's the most important thing?
Definitely.
Yeah.
If you get it in on time, even if it sucks, usually you're good.
Yeah. Because I mean, they have to get it out.
He's the go-to guy. Yeah. It's like, come on, I got to get this stuff out the door.
So, what other advice would you have for like starting artists who getting into the gig?
I'd say don't do it.
It seems like that is the most popular.
I work harder than a dude digging digging ditches. As they.
It's funny. We talk to a lot of entrepreneurs and self-employed people, and someone outside looking in, they go, "Oh, that guy."
You're a one-man company.
Yeah, but people look at it and go, "Oh, that guy draws a picture for a living." Yeah.
I have 2 agents, one for my quote-unquote real artwork, and one for my, things like gaming and stuff like that. And I'm still the guy who does all the,
the legwork.
Pretty much.
So what was your favorite project that you got to work on?
My favorite project?
Yeah.
I've worked on so many things that it's...
It wasn't like one, like you got to finally draw the one superhero that you were totally into?
No, because I still haven't drawn him, and that would be Batman. And I was never on a Batman book.
Yeah. So is that... are you still angling for that?
All these decades. No, editors don't want me.
Yeah.
I'm just not that guy. I think those days are beyond me. Got past me. I think I have to make a mad killing on one of my creator-owned projects,
right?
To get me back around,
so that to the point where they want your name attached, like to sell the book.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what kind of creator-owned projects are you working on?
I'm working on this thing called the Jetty Cat right now for Dark Horse. For Dark Horse, I guess is the best way to say it, but I'm developing it.
Yeah.
It's my creator-owned project. It's my baby.
Yeah.
I'm also working on this thing called Luna City, that's going to be published by Altered Reality. I forgot to tell you that earlier.
Yeah.
Sorry, you don't have a dump.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Altered Reality, as in the con company that, like
exactly,
Steve's company.
Because Steve's company. Steve hired my buddy Art Nichols.
Yeah.
Ian Nichols, excuse me. Art Nichols.
Oh yeah, I know Ian. Ian's a great guy.
Of course.
Yeah.
Joe St. Pierre.
Yeah.
Who's down the aisle from me, but you can't see it.
We're pointing at him. Just trust us.
And he's also working on this new line of comic books.
Oh, that's cool.
Altered Reality. Right now, it's all their characters.
Right.
We're all working on this stuff with the promise that our stuff would be. Our creator-owned stuff will be published at some point in the future.
That's
even
cool.
if it's just one-shots or anything.
Right.
Which is, a nice jumping off.
Sometimes all it takes is a one-shot.
Right. It's a nice jumping off.
And you have that nice automatic advertising space of all the Comic-Cons that they do, so you kind of have a built-in marketing system behind it. That's great.
Yeah.
So, sweet. And so, do you get more fans at shows looking for your comic work or for your Magic cards, or just kind of
it's all the same.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes I say, wow, I didn't know you drew comic books too, and then sometimes I say, wow, you paint Magic. You do anything else like in gaming? I'm like, yeah, I did Dungeons and Dragons.
I did not know.
Yeah.
5th edition, or
I did a lot of rule book illustration.
No kidding. So I'm a huge D&D fan. I had no idea that you worked on that stuff.
Yeah, if you go into some of those rule books, you'll see my illustrations. You'll go, oh, that's Hannibal, but he doesn't have his name on it, so I never would have known.
Right, yeah. So do they not credit you in the book for that, or is it somewhere else in the book?
It's credited.
But just like not on the picture.
Right.
Yeah, so you gotta look for it. I'm gonna have to go and check out my
there you go.
my D&D books.
It'll freak you out.
Yeah, it will.
Yeah.
So sweet, man. Thanks for talking to us. And,
Hey, anytime.
Hopefully we'll get you in for like maybe a full episode when your book's out.
That'll be great.
Sweet. Awesome. Thanks, man.
So it's Miller time now, I guess. Thanks for listening to the Inebri-Art podcast. And if you get a chance, we have Jam Packed with Matt and Jeff, another podcast that we put out where they review and talk about all things horror movie related. And then starting in September, we have 2 more podcasts coming out. The Bar Talk, hosted by Carl and Jordan, and they'll be talking to bartenders and owners and restaurant staff of all kinds about the crazy things they go through. So that'll be a lot of fun. And then we also have the Old Colony Cast, another weekly podcast about all things Plymouth and surrounding areas, events, anything going on, interesting people. So if you're a tourist or you live in the area, make sure you check that one out for all sorts of cool stuff. And thanks for listening.